people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this, an unexpected bit of news. Per tweet from Steve Kim, I'm told Senicia Superbad Estrada has accepted an offer from Golden Boy Promotions to fight Annabelle-Ortiz in August. She's excited to be back and show everyone why she's the best in the world. For those not already aware, Senicia Estrada won her first title.
Her first full title from Annabelle-Ortiz in the minimum weight division.
The WBA minimum weight title she's currently in possession of, and this was an unexpected bit of news because, well, one,
She beat Annabelle comprehensively.
she beat Annabelle-Ortiz for that WBA minimum weight title decisively, so much so that there's actually no need for a second fight, no need for a rematch. She dropped her early, and I remember thinking to myself, Annabelle didn't win a round. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see Senicia Estrada returning to action, but the last person I expected her to face in her very next fight was somebody that she beat decisively. I have expected to see Senicia Estrada in a unification match.
Per tweet from Dake Jonovan.
He's told there's an offer for Senicia Estrada to rematch Annabelle-Ortiz on the Virgil-Ortiz versus McKinson
August 6th, DAZN show in Fort Worth.
Senicia Estrada is willing to take it and resume her career. Fittingly, Estrada beat Annabelle-Ortiz to win her first world title in the same venue last March.
Annabelle's coming off of 2 back-to-back losses.
Lost to Senicia Estrada in the minimum weight division last March, which we just mentioned, and the loss to Marlena Esparza more recently, late last year, in December.
I don't understand this. Why are they doing a second fight?
Now, I understand that Senicia Estrada is willing to give Annabelle-Ortiz a rematch, even though by all accounts, Annabelle doesn't exactly deserve one. Golden Boy Promotions very recently signed minimum weight champion
IBF minimum weight champion of Costa Rica, Yo Costa Valle.
Yo Costa, who was in action last week against Lorraine Villalobos in what was both her U.S. and Golden Boy Promotions debut. And one would assume that if they've brought another minimum weight champion on board, that would be who Senicia Estrada faces in her next fight.
Remember, this card's supposed to go down in August. That's a little over 2 months from now.
I get the sense they must have offered Senicia an incentivized offer to stay on board with Golden Boy Promotions long enough that they can do the fight between her and Yo Costa Valle later on this year.
That's gotta be it, because I wasn't expecting her to stay at Golden Boy Promotions.
She very recently took to social media to express her discontent with the promotional outfit, citing fighter pay as a discrepancy, an issue, and I guess that Golden Boy Promotions, they must have made her some kind of an incentivized offer to stay on board, take on Annabelle-Ortiz, who I do believe they have under contract, take her on for a second time, and then unify with Yo Costa later on in the year. I get the sense that that might be the situation. I wasn't actually expecting Senicia Estrada to stay on board with Golden Boy.
She's not going to return to action till August. That's 7 months into the year of 2022.
On a schedule like that, Senicia Estrada could perhaps fit in one more fight before the year is out. One more fight in either the fall or winter months. If she returns to action in August, she can come back sometime in the fall.
Unify with Yo Costa, potentially?
Or in the winter months. It all depends on when Yo Costa Valle becomes available for such a fight, because post-fight last week, when she scored that decision win over Lorraine Villalobos, Yo Costa Valle stated that they've already entered into talks for the Nunez, a unification fight with her, this division's reigning WBO champion.
The way it looks, Yo Costa Valle might fight 2 to 3 times this year.
2 more, I should say, 4 overall. As she started off this year with a rematch against Japan's own Sana Hazuki, she made her Golden Boy Promotions debut last week against Lorraine Villalobos. She's talking about unifying titles with the Nunez.
If that ends up being her next fight, that's 3 fights this year.
And if the plan is to match Yo Costa Valle against Senicia Estrada before this year is up, well, that makes 4. Yo Costa Valle will have fought 4 times in the year of 2022, whereas Senicia looks like she might only fight 2 times.
Just 2.
I'm ambivalent. I've got mixed feelings because I've no desire to see Senicia Estrada take on Annabelle-Ortiz for a second time. It seems like a waste of time, if I'm being honest. She beat her decisively last year. What's the sense in giving her a rematch this year?
The ideal fight for Senicia would have been Germany's own Tina Ruprecht.
This division's reigning WBC champion, unbeaten WBC champion that actually beat Yo Costavalle, this division's IBF champion, some years ago. The ideal fight for Senicia at this point would have been a unification match with Tina, not a rematch with Annabelle.
Seems like Golden Boy Promotions is wasting Senicia Estrada's time.
Don't misunderstand me. I'm a big fan of Senicia Estrada's. I followed her career closely for many years now, but this fight seems like a pointless formality, a pointless rematch that's eating up Senicia Estrada's time, and I don't know why she would have agreed to this unless they made her some kind of a financial incentive.
Maybe a little bit more money, plus the unification match with Yo Costavalle later on this year.
And that's just me bouncing ideas around because this isn't what I expected. This isn't the news I expected to hear when it comes to Senicia Estrada. But this is the case. She's going to be returning to action in August on the undercard of Ortiz versus McKinson. In reference to that Virgil Ortiz versus Michael McKinson fight set for August 6th in Fort Worth, Texas.
It's been rescheduled. They were supposed to do this fight a ways back, but Virgil had to pull out.
Pulled out due to illness, a case of rhabdomyolysis that caused widespread speculation that Virgil might end up leaving the welterweight division.
That's not the case.
Knockout sensation and the pride of Grand Prairie, Texas, Virgil Ortiz will make his grand return to the ring on Saturday, August 6th, taking on top 10 ranked undefeated welterweight contender Michael the Problem McKinson of Portsmouth, Great Britain. The 12-round welterweight fight will take place at the Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, Texas, and will stream live worldwide exclusively on DAZN. I am very happy to be stepping back into the ring again, said Ortiz Jr. I'm ready to show the world once again why I'm ready for a world title. I'm getting what I deserve, said Michael McKinson. I was prepared to fight Ortiz before. Now, I've been given the opportunity again to prove I am the best in this division.
Classic style matchup here. The boxer versus the puncher.
Virgil Ortiz being the boxer, sporting a professional record of 18 wins, no losses, no draws, with 18 knockouts, to Michael McKinson, who sports a professional record of 22 wins and just two knockouts. Ortiz boasts a perfect knockout undefeated record and is considered one of the most exciting fighters in today's welterweight division. Originally scheduled to return to the ring in March 19 in Los Angeles against Michael the Problem McKinson, Ortiz suffered a medical emergency that forced him to pull out of that fight. Fortunately, the fighter is now 100% healthy to return and is looking to make an impressive comeback in front of his hometown when he faces McKinson at the Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, Texas. Virgil Ortiz.
Virgil is a really exciting fucking fighter, I have to say that.
He's the most exciting welterweight in the world, said Oscar De La Coca, chairman and CEO. We are happy that he's back, healthy and feels 100%, fighting in his home state. I can't think of a better way for him to make his comeback and put on another great performance for his fans. He is one step away from challenging any world champion, and he will prove it on August 6th. Ortiz Jr. was last seen in the ring in a fantastic TKO victory against world title contender Egidigus Kavaliauskas.
That was in August of last year.
In addition, he has faced and won against some of the toughest fighters in the division, knocking out contenders like Antonio Orozco, Brad the King Solomon, and Mighty Mo Hooker. Ranked as one of the top 10 best welterweights in the world, McKinson is an undefeated fighter ready to face any contender in the division. Hailing from Portsmouth, Great Britain, the 27-year-old made his U.S. debut in March
19th on the undercard of Alexis Rocha versus Blair Cobbs,
defeating Alex Chi-Town Heat Martin after a last-minute change due to the cancellation of Ortiz Jr. versus McKinson. Now a notable name in the boxing scene, McKinson has enjoyed an accomplished career, capturing titles including the WBC International Silver Welterweight title and the WBO European and Global Welterweight titles. Now the UK fighter will be looking to show that he has what it takes to defeat Ortiz in his home turf and prove he belongs among the division's elite. I am delighted that this fight has come back around for Mikey, said Eddie Hearn, chairman of Matchroom Boxing.
But was it without some doing? Other avenues were explored before we got here.
Other opponent options, Eddie Hearn was quoted as saying, "I'm delighted that this fight has come back around for Mikey. He suffered disappointment in March when Virgil was forced out of the fight, but thanks to a lot of hard work all around, he was able to fight in LA and gathered valuable experience by making his U.S. debut and all that comes with it. So there will be no surprises for him in Fort Worth. Virgil is an exceptional young fighter, one of the best rising stars in the sport, but we believe Mikey has the style to cause him a lot of problems, and this could be his breakout night."
Or the night he gets broken.
These finesse fighting kind of fighters that ain't big on power. These fighters that ain't artillery fighters. You know, to fend off a guy like Virgil Ortiz, you're gonna need some mustard on that hot dog, and I'm not sure that Michael McKinson's got it.
Rick,
who handles the career of Virgil Ortiz, was quoted as saying, "Virgil Ortiz and us tried for Thurman, and of course he doesn't want to. Ortiz tried next for Avanesian, and he agrees, then backs out. Easy to see why they all run. So you will hear soon about the only guy
that's not scared to fight with him that he can.
and that guy's Michael McKinson. Hats off to him. He must really like his chances making himself available for this fight with the very dangerous Virgil Ortiz, not once, but twice. Virgil Ortiz, for a lot of guys right now, he's a high-risk, low-reward fighter because he's a very capable boxer and entertaining one, but he does not yet have the necessary marquee value to make a fight with him a financial incentive.
Michael wants to fight him anyway.
The night of the fight, if you can believe this, it will have been a year's time since Virgil Ortiz last saw action. That's right. The Agadigos-Kavalyauskas fight, the night of the McKinson fight, will have been roughly 12 months.
Will have been 12 months prior to the McKinson fight. It's been that long since we saw Virgil fight.
And that kind of layoff, due to medical reasons or otherwise, whatever the reason is, it doesn't exactly help a fighter's notoriety. It doesn't exactly help a fighter's marquee value when he's not fighting. Remember, Virgil Ortiz is not yet a world champion. He's not a household name. Far from one at this point. He's got to fight, and he's got to fight often in order to become that. Virgil Ortiz fought 2 times last year. So did Michael McKinson. But Michael, very recently, he saw action against Alex Martin. The Virgil Ortiz fight will be his second fight this year. His second fight in the year of 2022.
Getting here took some doing. It took for David Avanesian to pull out of a fight with Virgil.
For Michael McKinson to come back into it. And if you want to call it a duck, you can call it a duck.
If you feel like David Avanesian ducked Virgil Ortiz, there's a very credible argument there.
It simply can't be defended. What exactly is David Avanesian so busy with that he ain't got no time for a Virgil Ortiz fight? Who the hell does Frank have on his side of the street for David Avanesian to fight?
That's a guy that's lost a lot of steam since that big win over Josh Kelly.
In truth, I didn't like David Avanesian's chances against Virgil Ortiz any more than I like Michael McKinson's chances against Virgil Ortiz. I think Virgil beats the both of those guys, but there does seem to have been some very poor decision-making when it comes to Team Avanesian. They chose to jump into bed with Frank Warren, who ain't got the inside track on welterweights, if you catch my drift. Frank ain't got nobody for him to
He
fight.
would have been better off jumping into bed with Sky Sports and Boxer.
At least then, they could have potentially built up a Florian Marcoux fight. It's neither here nor there because David's with Frank Warren, and it just is what it is. August 6th, Virgil Ortiz, who he so avoided, will be returning to action against Michael McKinson. And, I like Virgil to beat the both of those guys, if I'm being honest. And finally, in men's lightweight news, I'm sure that most of you have heard by now, per tweet from Michael Benson, George Kambosos Jr. on Devine Haney. The rematch is happening, 100%. I've activated the rematch clause. The Emperor is dead, but Ferocious is still alive, and I will be back. This is my destiny to show how great I am and get those belts back. I know I can beat Haney.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I have no desire to see a second fight.
And I don't imagine that a second fight goes any differently than the first one did. George Kambosos Jr. is a solid fighter. Make no mistake, he is. But what he's not is a pressure guy, and he's not going to become one with a few tweaks and adjustments overnight.
That's really not how this works.
I think in a second fight, Devine Haney would beat him for a second time, and so does Devine, who stated, "I feel like I did it once, and I can do it again. Devin Haney is completely confident he'll beat George Kambosos Jr. just as soundly in their rematch as he did during their first fight. If Haney remains in the lightweight division, he'll have to box Kambosos next because he agreed to an immediate rematch in Australia when he signed a multi-fight agreement with Bob Arum's Top Rank Inc. and DeBella Entertainment late in March to secure his shot at full unification. Kambosos made it clear in the immediate aftermath of his unanimous points loss to Haney on June 5th in Melbourne that he would exercise his contractual right to an immediate rematch. Haney has no reservations about flying halfway around the world again to box Kambosos in the former champion's home country. He was quoted as saying, "At the end of the day, I just feel like I did it once, I can do it again. We know what to expect. We shared the ring with him. We know what he brings to the table. Even though he will try to make adjustments, there's nothing he can do to surprise us because he threw everything he could at us in the first fight. And we're ready for whatever in the second one."
I just don't think that George can change that much in one fight.
"Honestly, whatever he does, I'll be ready for it," Haney said. "We prepared well for him. It doesn't matter. Whatever he brings to the table, we're going to be 100% ready for. If he wants to change, it is what it is."
But what needs to change?
George's guard, for one. He should experiment with more of a high guard to catch that jab on the arms and gloves, attempting to counter Devin Haney's jab. And that's not saying he's going to have success countering that jab, but that is one thing that needs to change. He needs to come forward more, be less cautious, and take more chances.
Throw more punches.
You can't sit back waiting for an opening with a pure boxer like a Devin Haney. It's not going to happen. He's too defensively responsible for that.
There won't be very many countering opportunities he gives you, or very many mistakes, if any, that he makes.
Pure boxers, in terms of the sweet science and the fundamentals of boxing, seldom ever make mistakes. It's one of their tried and true characteristics. They're economic, with purpose, efficient, for a reason.
They don't put a lot out there because the less they put out there, the less there is for you to counter.
So where there are no countering opportunities and opportunities to land hard shots, you have to go out there and get them. You have to create them.
Coming forward in a high guard is one way, looking to catch and shoot.
Being more aggressive, doubling and tripling up on the jab as you close the gap in order to keep Devin Haney's guns holstered and unload shots of your own as you
inch forward.
Another way, it's not that a pure boxer can't be taken out of their comfort zone. It's that it takes certain physical attributes, certain characteristics that don't necessarily boil down to application.
When it comes to application is the difference between a proper jab and a lazy jab.
Application is keeping your head off center. Application is staying side on.
Not squaring up, is to not get hit with a shot that'll knock you flat on your ass.
That all boils down to application and applied sciences in the sweet science, the sport of boxing. But some things are physical attributes. Some things you're just born with, like speed and reflexes, power. I don't think George has the hand speed or the foot speed.
I don't think he has the athleticism for this assignment.
Pressure fighters aren't necessarily slaves to form, but they do tend to have a lot of physical attributes that lend themselves to that base style.
They tend to be durable. Some of them have very good gas tanks,
which in turn allows them to throw punches in bunches. They're not just looking for one or two shots to do the guy. They're going to swing for the fences.
Round after round, they're going to go for it, and physically they can do that.
Because they've got the gas tank for it. George, at his best, is a boxer puncher. He's not a pressure guy.
I don't think he's going to become one overnight.